A production brought to you by Classic Miller Studios. Frank McCourt was the best-selling author of Angela Sasha's Tis and TeacherMan, and the winner of the National Book Critics Circle Award and the Pulitzer Prize. He was born on August 19, 1930 in Limerick, Ireland. He died on July 19, 2009 in New York City at age 78. For Frank, who was living in Ireland, it was always damp, and he once described it as Calcutta with rain. His family lived in poverty since there was no available work. When his father did work, he would drink the wages away. There was a sort of general fear while growing up. Frank and his family shared a lavatory with other families on their lane, which attracted flies. The flies would land on their food. This caused Frank to obtain typhoid when he was only 10 years old. He had nearly died. Living in conditions like these, it's clear that he considered everything to be precious and turned into jewelry by poverty. Still, he was ashamed of coming from the slums. In Limerick, there was no children's library, and the McCourts couldn't afford books. The first book that Frank read was a cheap book that his mother purchased for him called Tom Brown's School Days. When Huckleberry Finn came, Frank wanted to be just like Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. That is to say, he wanted to be free. Frank described his Irish schooling as harsh, and that his teachers used a stick to keep discipline. His only encouraging teacher was his last teacher called Mr. O'Halloran. He had called McCourt a literary genius, which had caused McCourt's classmates to tease him in the school courtyard. In Ireland, school was only mandatory until a student was 14 years old, and the McCourt family could not afford secondary school. When he ended primary school, Frank was only 13 years old. He then waited until he was 14 years old before he took his first job. He became a temporary telegram boy and delivered telegrams for 2 years until he was 16 years old. Despite his mother's wishes, he didn't take the exam, in which would enable him to become a more permanent telegram boy. He thought it was worth it, though. Frank came with his family to America at age 19 with a poor emotional, psychological, and physical condition. He tried to pass himself as middle class and failed when he tried to talk with an American accent. Whenever a person heard his Irish accent, he was instantly labeled. Most Americans were still a state where they were prejudiced against Irish immigrants. He only managed to obtain a cleaning job at a hotel.
I knew then that I was, again, at the bottom of the heap.
When China attacked Korea, Frank was drafted for 2 years into the United States Army. He was stationed in Germany training military dogs. To him, this made him a beneficiary of America's history. After the Army, Frank attended NYU. As an assignment, he wrote about his childhood bed, which he shared with his 3 brothers. The bed was huge, missing the spring, urine-soaked, and covered with fleas. Boys had to kill each other's fleas. Frank received an A+. After a brief persuasion, his professor read the assignment to the class.
I became kind of an exotic in the class.
After NYU, Frank became a teacher at McKee Vocational High School. Students there weren't interested in him and his lessons. To begin with, he wasn't even told what to do.
And here I was in front of these American teenagers who were a species from another world for me.
He tried to be tough, but he learned to be honest. It was through teaching that he learned this. He thought that he became a human being. Frank also taught at Seward Park High School and then taught 18 years at Stuyvesant High School. Throughout his teaching career, the mature students made him more mature. He learned to help kids by getting them to think for themselves while looking at both points of view. Over the years, Frank had been keeping notebooks like personal journals. In 1967 and 1968, he tried to start writing a book about his experiences. He called it If You Lived in the Lane. He had the material in his head, but he needed to find a rhythm in writing.
It's like running a marathon. You can't say, oh, I'm going to run the marathon. You have to, 9 months in advance at least, start getting it and start training.
He wrote the story on the right-hand page and ideas on the left-hand page as he created the book Angela's Ashes. It sold over 27,000 copies and received a Pulitzer Prize and the Critics Circle Award. After Angela's Ashes came out, Frank realized he didn't finish his story. He'd only wrote about his first 19 years so he was alive. He wanted to show what happened to him: college, China, Korea. Frank McCourt believed he had fulfilled his dream by coming to America and teaching. To get where he was, he had overcome anger, which didn't let him stop being phony when his students became cooperative. If he had gone into anything else, he would have been dead in 5 years. If there was only one message that can be taken from Frank, it is: find what you love and do it.